Welcome, I am the LoudLilDucky. Today we are going to go over the police reports from the night that Sandra Birchmore died or was killed. Remember, Sandra Birchmore is a woman who was 3 months pregnant, and a cover-up has ensued from Canton, Massachusetts, and Stoughton, Massachusetts. Let's see what these officers had to say. So we have Canton Police Department, and it's got the incident, date and time. They is February 4th, 2021. It says the status is no crime was involved. The reporting officer was Patrolman Charles Yeaton, who I don't know much about. If anybody knows about Mr. Charles Yeaton, please let me know down in the comments. And Assisting Officer Lieutenant Michael Lank. We will get to more about him later. Involved Darlene Smith, which is Sandra Birchmore's aunt. I'm guessing she's the one who called it in, maybe. It gives the residents the Windsor apartments, Windsor Woods apartments. The victim is Sandra Birchmore. And as we've talked about in a previous video, she worked for the Sharon Public Schools. She's a resident. Another person that they talked to was, there was 2 other people that they had talked to that kind of lived in that vicinity, or maybe they were neighbors or something, to see if they saw or heard anything. Now, here is the narrative from Patrolman Charles Yeaton. On February 4th, 2021, at approximately 11 a.m., I was dispatched to Windsor Woods Way to assist members of the Canton Police Family Services Unit on a well-being check requested by other agency, Sharon, Massachusetts Police. 2. I was greeted in the lobby entrance by Officer Mike Brady, not from the Brady Bunch, and Officer Inslee Cotard, as well as the property manager, Aaron Porter. So that is one of the other people that they talked to, that is listed on that report that we just looked at, who provided the key for us to gain entrance into 3307 Windsor Woods Way, Canton. 3. The call originated for a well-being check from the Sharon Public Schools, and they contacted Sharon Officer Mike Hawking. As a teacher, Sandra Birchmore has not shown up for work or called in sick for several days. So she's been a no-call, no-show, which it was enough to raise their eyebrows, so it must not be something that she does. So they were worried and called a wellness check on her. 4. Officer Cotard and I entered the dwelling and observed 2 cats in the apartment and noticed the conditions were cluttered and unkept, and noticed the bedroom door was closed. Officer Cotard opened the door and we observed a young female in a seated position on the floor with a scarf around her neck and tightly affixed to the closet door handle. Due to discoloration, skin blue, and the lividity, and appeared that the female had been there for a long period of time. Sergeant Michael Lank, shift supervisor, radioed to secure the scene immediately. While en route to the residence, Sergeant Lank directed us to secure the scene, and Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, CPAC, was notified and advised that they would be responding to the residence. Sergeant Lank and Detective Jonathan McCourt arrived a short time later, and Officer Brady, Officer Cotard, and outside the apartment, and Sergeant Link and Detective McCourt entered the apartment in an attempt to gather information and proper identification of the victim. Sergeant Link requested Canton Fire and EMS to respond to our location. Firefighter and paramedic Daniel Whitley arrived and pronounced Sandra Birchmore deceased at 11:46 a.m. No life-saving measures were taken at the time. Trooper Mike Dunn from Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, CPAC, arrived on the scene, as well as Trooper Zach Clark from Crime Scene Services to process and photograph the scene. At 12:44 p.m., I received a call from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Officer of the Medical Examiners and spoke with the intake specialist Mercedes Robinson. And after gathering pertinent information, the ME's office accepted jurisdiction and will be responding to the case assigned. Trooper Dunn requested next of kin to be contacted and respond to the residents for questioning. Staunton Police Department notified and assisting with making contact. Darlene Smith, who is the aunt of the deceased, was not home when Staunton attempted notification. She contacted the Canton Police moments later by phone and was notified of the deceased by Officer Nix. Smith was currently in New Hampshire and unable to respond to the scene. Her contact information was provided to Trooper Dunn. Lastly, in his report, Sergeant Link was able to access video footage with the assistance from the property management. The victim was last seen on camera entering the building on Sunday, January 31st, 2021 at 4:41 p.m. And we know that that is not the proper date. So already we have a mistake. The last time she was seen on video was not Sunday, January 31st, 2021 at 4:41 p.m. We know, in fact, she was last seen on February 1st, which was a Monday. And then it was 4 days later, a Thursday, the 4th of February, that she was found. So, is he remembering wrong? Did Sergeant Link tell him that? Did Sergeant Link misremember? Because all you have to do is look at the footage and look at the date. It's not that hard. So why are already we seeing at the beginning of this investigation, we cannot get facts straight? If you can't even get your narrative, the very first thing you write from the notes that you took, this is the first official thing pretty much that gets entered in. And we're already starting with false information. That was not corrected at a later date that I know of. Maybe it has been. It's a discrepancy, and it's not great. You need to get the facts right if you are an officer. Like, you cannot just be misremembering and things like that, or if you do, you need to go and put a correction in. Make sure that you're correct in your note-taking, because that date could throw the whole investigation off. Even one day, 24 hours, a lot can happen in 24 hours. Because that would make it look like Matthew Farewell didn't even enter until the very next day after her last seeing. And that's not what happened. The supplemental narrative for Detective Jonathan McCourt. On February 4th, 2021, at approximately 11:09 a.m., I responded to Canton Woods for a well-being check of a female party, later identified as Sandra Birchmore. On my arrival, I spoke with first responding officer on scene, Officer Yeaton, Officer Cotard, and Officer Brady. I was informed the party was deceased and had hanged herself. I had officers wait outside the apartments as I made entry. Now, a lot of this is going to be some of the same stuff because it's each of their versions of what happened. But what we need to see is what is the same and what is the difference in them. I'm not worried about if one of them says 1109 and another one says 1110 or something like that. I don't care about that. Big discrepancies are the thing we're pretty much looking for. Blank, obvious signs of lividity had set in Birchmore's face, hands, and abdominal area. There was no visible trauma to the head or defensive abrasions on the hand. So she didn't fight. No defensive wounds. That says a lot right there, if that's true. She didn't fight her attacker. The bedroom, along with the apartment, was unorganized and unkept. No signs of struggle were observed in the bedroom or the apartment. On the kitchen counter of the apartment in plain view is, we don't know, it's redacted. 7. Sergeant Link arrived shortly after my arrival in Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, CPAC, and the Medical Examiner's Office and Canton Fire were all notified. Canton firefighter Whitley arrived on scene and pronounced Birchmore deceased. Firefighter Whitley informed me that he believes Birchmore was deceased for a few days. Trooper Matt Dunn and Trooper Kevin Tufts arrived from CPAC. Massachusetts State Police crime scene was present as well. Troopers processed and photographed the scene. Troopers located additional blank once on scene. We will not know what that is because that has been redacted as well. Once the troopers were finished processing the scene, Chris Adams and Caton Bulger of the Medical Examiner's Office took custody of the body. After the body was removed, the CPAC and the Medical Examiner's Office cleared. I located additional in the bedroom closet in a cardboard box. Well, we know what was in that cardboard box. It was the baby car seat she had just bought and brought in. Because, she was preparing to have a baby, not to unalive herself. Because that's what you do when you're going to do that, is you make purchases for the future when you're not going to be around for the future. Seems fishy, doesn't it? Prior to clearing the scene, Officer Brady and I had Animal Control take custody of the 2 cats in the apartment. Officer Brady locked the door once we cleared. Alright, and then he goes on to say, on February 6, 2021, I spoke to Sergeant Link about additional information he had learned from property manager Aaron Porter. See Sergeant Link's supplemental report. So his report's going to have that information. I would have liked to see, especially with Sergeant Link, I would have liked to see that in McCourt's narrative. The additional information that he found out, and he can reference it, that he got it from there. But what happens if Sergeant Link doesn't put that in his supplemental report and we're expecting that he had? Unless he already had Sergeant Link's supplemental report to base this off of when he wrote it. So we'll see when we get to Link's narrative. This information was passed along to Trooper Tufts by phone. In speaking to Trooper Tufts, he requested that he would like the video from Canton Woods. At approximately 1 p.m., Sergeant Link, Detective Albert... Oh. Really, Detective Albert? Another one. If you've been following the Karen Reed case, you know exactly who the Alberts are. And I went to Canton Woods to assist the state police in obtaining video from Birchmore's apartment building. We were met at the leasing office by Trooper Dunn and Trooper Tufts. Maintenance Supervisor Carlos, I'm not going to even try to pronounce his last name, assisted us in reviewing the video footage. The video of the building number 3 is motion activated and only captures the front lobby. Well, it's nice that their motion-activated cameras work really well, unlike Canton police departments. Their motion activated stuff only catches things sometimes. Birchmore was last seen on video at 17:46 on Monday, February 1st, 2021. Well, thank you, Detective Jonathan McCourt, for getting that right. Investigators note Trooper Tuft and Colleen Crawford, Norfolk District Attorney's Office, took custody of the video hard drive from Building 3. The camera's video time and actual time was believed to be 13 minutes off. Okay, so even if we subtract 13 minutes from each time, it's still going to be 20 minutes approximately that Farwell was in Birchmore's apartment. It's still going to be the same amount of time in between all the things, just subtracting 13 minutes. But it's still the correct date and everything else. While we were reviewing the video, Carlos informed me that he recognized everyone on the video that enters the lobby on Monday except one individual. The individual Carlos did not recognize enters the complex at 21:27. The individual is tall, burly male. The individual is wearing work boots, jeans, black jacket, and has a black hood on his head. The individual is also wearing a black mask, COVID. The party is not wearing gloves and appears to be white. 5. The individual exits the building at 21:56. When the individual exits the elevator, his jacket coat is open, and a white symbol is seen on his upper left portion of his black sweatshirt. The symbol resembles what I believe to be the 9-line logo. 9-line is military apparel. And who usually likes military apparel other than military people? Usually police officers, maybe some firefighters, Carlos reiterated that he did not know who that party was. Carlos also informed me that his worker Sturgeon, Michael Sturgeon, saw the party before with Birchmore. So somebody has seen that particular individual with Sandra before. I spoke to Sturgeon. Michael informed me that the individual on the camera looked like a guy who helped Birchmore move into her apartment. Well, isn't that nice of Farwell? Help her move and get settled into this little apartment. Was he planning it then? Was he scoping out the place then? Sturgeon said that Birchmore moved in sometime in December. Sturgeon was not 100% positive. Sturgeon was unsure of the exact date. So he didn't know what date exactly she moved in, but he thinks it's sometime in December. Which, man, she wasn't even there that long. If this happened in February. Like a month and a half, 2 months max. Investigators note, I was later learned from Sturgeon that he saw the individual the same day police responded to apartment 3214. I ran an in-house check of 3214 and located, as Sturgeon's call, on December 1st, 2021 at 2039. See the report. It should also be noted that Carlos informed us that Birchmore only had one key fob to enter the building. Carlos was going to email Birchmore's key fob activity to the state police. Huh. Interesting. After reviewing video, Detective Albert, Sergeant Lank, and I accompanied Troopers Dunn and Sergeant Fanning, who arrived on scene, to apartment 3307 as a follow-up of the scene. Assistant Property Manager Faherty, Kathleen, provided us with the keys to the apartment. That was the other name on that first document that we looked at. Was her and Aaron. Once inside, Trooper Sergeant Fanning and Trooper Dunn took custody of the written material located in the apartment. Also, the key fob to her apartment was located on her keys, resting on a box inside her apartment. Okay. The apartment was locked once we cleared. So they had gone back. They found her key fob on her keys. So, but somehow, well, she probably let in Matthew Farwell because she knew him. Maybe she knew he was coming over and all that stuff. We'll find out more as we go into this story. Now we have the supplemental narrative for Patrolman Kingsley Kittard, Officer Kittard. So on Thursday, February 6, 2021, I, Officer Kittard, was working in the capacity of the school resource officer, herein referenced as an SRO, at Canton High School. At approximately 9:45 a.m., I was contacted directly via cell phone from Sharon Police Officer Michael Hawking, the SRO of Sharon Public Schools, who requested my assistance on performing a wellness check on a female staff member of Sharon Public Schools who has not been arriving to work or seen or heard from in several days. Officer Hawking advised me that Birchmore, Sandra, works as an instructional assistant at East Middle School in Sharon, and the school administration contacted him because Miss Birchmore has not come to work in days, is not responding when they tried to contact her, and they could not get in touch with the emergency contact they had on file. Remember, her aunt was out of town. She was in New Hampshire at the time. And they gave the last known address that the Officer Hacking had for Birchmore, and that was the Windsor Woods, Canton Woods apartments, knowing that this place was a large apartment condo complex. I asked Officer Hawking if there was a specific known apartment number for Miss Birchmore, and he responded in the negative. So they didn't know exactly which apartment it was. This was all the information Officer Hawking was able to provide me about Miss Birchmore. At this time, I advised Officer Hawking that I would go to Canton Woods leasing office and attempt to verify if Miss Birchmore in fact a resident. If confirmed, I would conduct a well-being check on the residents. With this information, I contacted Sergeant Link and advised him of the information I received and that I would be responding to Canton Woods. At approximately 10:45 a.m., assisting SRO Brady and I spoke with Canton Woods property manager Aaron Porter and confirmed that Birchmore is a residence and the apartment is 3307. We asked Miss Porter if she had seen or spoke with Miss Birchmore recently, and she advised us that she had not seen or heard from her in several days. Miss Porter did advise that she was told by someone within the building that asked Miss Porter if she could try to contact Miss Birchmore. With the contact number that she had for her on file, Miss Porter attempted 2 times to contact Miss Birchmore's cell phone, and she advised us that the call was going directly to her voicemail. I advised Miss Porter that we would attempt to make contact with Miss Birchmore at her apartment. At approximately 11 a.m., School Resource Officer Brady and I knocked and announced our presence on the door of Miss Birchmore for several minutes and did not receive a response. At this time, I contacted Sergeant Link and advised him of the current situation. Sergeant Link stated that we should try to locate her vehicle in the parking lot, and if located, then we'll make entry into the apartment. So they wanted to make sure that her vehicle was even there, because if her vehicle wasn't there, maybe she wasn't there. Maybe she was somewhere else. And so she drove a 2018 Chevy Cruze sedan that was blue. They located the vehicle outside of Building 3 and radioed in to dispatch that we located the vehicle. Officer Brady and I visually inspected the vehicle and noticed that there was snow still on and around the vehicle that appeared undisturbed. The reader should note that the last time it snowed was Monday, February 1st, 2021, into Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. We also noticed her Sharon Public School identification card hanging from the rearview mirror with her name and picture on it. I requested for a uniform officer to the scene and was able to obtain keys for the apartment for Miss Porter. A short time later, Officer Yeaton arrived on scene and we all made our way back to Miss Birchmore's apartment 3307. Again, I knocked and announced our presence at the door several times with no response. With the key, all the officers on scene made entry into the apartment and immediately noticed that the apartment was disheveled and unkept, with 2 house cats running around the apartment when we made entry. I first entered the bathroom, opened door, lights off, and rendered the area safe. I then entered the bedroom of the apartment. I opened the closed door, lights off, and noticed Miss Birchmore seated on the floor with some sort of belt, lanyard, string, rope securely tightly around her neck that was secured to the door handle of the bedroom closet. So he says that it is like a belt, lanyard, rope, string thing. Another person said it was a scarf. We probably should have a good idea of what it is, because a belt, lanyard, string thing, a gym bag belt or gym bag strap, and a scarf, well, those are all different, and they're going to leave different markings, and they have different widths and stuff to them. Deceased. It was immediately apparent to the officer Miss Birchmore was deceased, as I noticed lividity about the skin and face and rigor about the body's extremities. I also noticed a large pool of dried blood around the mouth. After locating the body, I exited the bedroom and documentation and redacted. All right. At this time, Officer Yeaton contacted the Canton Police Station and advised them of our discovery. After we discovered the body, we were advised by Sergeant Link and Detective McCourt to exit the apartment and secure the scene for processing. He also requested for Medical Examiner's Office, the Massachusetts State Police, CPAC, and the Crime Scene Investigation to respond to the scene. Sergeant Link and Detective McCourt arrived on scene, made entrance into the apartment. A short time later, Troopers Kevin Tufts, Trooper Matt Dunn, and Kevin Clark arrived in scene to begin processing. I cleared from the scene a short time after. I contacted Officer Hawking via cell phone and advised him of my discovery. He stated that he would pass the information along to the school administration. Once I confirmed with him, the next of kin has been notified. He advised me that Miss Birchmore was also at one point a staff member / teacher with Stoughton Public Schools, and that he had contacted Officer Shanna Isabel, who is a school resource officer for Stoughton Public Schools, about Miss Birchmore earlier for contact information before contacting me. I advised him that I would reach out to her for information. I contacted and spoke with Officer Isabel via cell phone and advised her of the situation. She advised me that she was very familiar with Miss Birchmore and shared with me that she was a former graduate of and employee of Stoughton High School. She stated that Stoughton patrol officers had responded to her previous address at a certain one. Officer Isabel stated that Miss Birchmore, redacted, she has also advised me that Miss Birchmore's mother and grandmother recently passed away and that her Aunt Smith, which is Miss Darlene Smith, would be a good person to contact for next of kin. I thanked her for the information and advised her that I would contact her once Miss Birchmore's next of kin was notified so that she could notify Stoughton Public School administration on the matter. Number 7. Lastly, on his report, at this time the case / investigation remains open and this report will be kept on file at the Canton Police Department pending further departmental action. So that's interesting. His is a little bit different than other people's. Well, he's got like his view of what the thing is, and we have things in here that the other people didn't have, like about her car and who contacted who and everything like that. So his narrative is not the same as others because he was doing different things than the other officers. So this is a report from December of 2020 that happened at the same address that Sandra Birchmore lives at. I don't know that this has anything to do with her, because her name is not mentioned anywhere in this report, but is something that happened at the address previously, and it was only like 2 to 3 months prior to Birchmore dying. So maybe they looked into this, but maybe these people moved out of that place, because it involved 2 African American males and a female that were fighting, and one suspect possibly had a firearm. It was a family member, intimate partner threat to commit a crime. So I don't know that this really has anything to do with her, but it is in with the police report files. So I'm putting it in here, but I don't know that it's connected to her. It's just something that police officers do look at to see, because a theory could be, I mean, not that there's any evidence that points to that, but a theory could be that maybe somebody thought that whoever previously lived there still lived there, and they came back to do something and it was the wrong, like, mistaken identity, or because they had come in to do something, they ended up hurting Sandra, because she saw the person or something. But we don't have any evidence to show that, but it is something that detectives and stuff and investigators should look at, because there has been cases that type of stuff has happened, but I don't know that that's a thing in this case. If anybody has any information on this particular thing and how it connects to her case, that would be interesting to know, other than the fact that it was just the same address. Now let's talk about the disgraceful Sergeant, Lieutenant, whatever you want to call him, Officer Michael Lank. He, if you have been watching the Karen Read trial, is friends, longtime friends, of Chris Albert. And we know the Albert's house is where John O'Keefe's body was found. And Lank has seemingly helped protect his boys in blues in the Karen Read case by, he's not supposed to be working on that case, but amazingly, he drives by after he's off the case and just so happens to find taillight pieces, even though he is off the case because there is a conflict of interest. He knows and is too close to the Alberts. But there's also a case where there was a bar fight in 2002. That case gets talked about in his voir dire that happens in the middle of his cross-examination in the trial. If you would like to see that, I will try to have a link to his testimony for the Karen Read case so you can just look at how he is. I'll give you direct and cross so you can get a full picture. But is he turning a blind eye once again in this case involving other boys in blue? Is he going to mess up and lie and stuff here to protect the Farwell brothers and Robert Devine and maybe even Josh Healy, but mainly Matthew Farwell? Is he having their backs just because they are cops and everybody else is a nobody? They run the place. They run the town. They watch out for each other. Might not be legally doing it, but they watch out for each other. So let's see what Michael Lank has to say. On February 4th, I was working as a patrol sergeant for the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. At approximately 10 a.m., I was notified by SRO Officer Cotard that he was going to be conducting a well-being check on a party at 3307 Windsor Woods Way. The party in question was Sandra Birchmore. She had not shown up for work at East Middle School for several days without notifying anybody at the school. Officer Cotard, Officer Brady, Officer Yeaton responded to 3307 Windsor Woods Way in an effort to make contact with Birchmore. Once on scene, Officer Cotard notified me that nobody was answering the door. Officer Cotard was then able to locate the subject's vehicle in the parking lot. The vehicle was covered in snow and appeared to have not been moved since the snowfall on Monday, February 3rd, 2021. Sir, the incident happened on the 4th. And if you know that the incident happening on the 4th was a Thursday, how in the world is Monday the 3rd, just the day before? Like, you're forgetting 4 days here. So, you need a calendar, sir. Somebody needs to alert you of the date and times, because you are not good with them, whether it's intentional or not. You seem to think that Monday was yesterday, when yesterday was Wednesday, not Monday, with this incident being on the 4th. Like, what in the world? You can't even get the simplest facts correct. And that irritates me. And this, I get, is something that people can do. But it needs to be corrected. It needs to be correct. Because if your police reports aren't correct, what else is not correct? You can't even take the time to get these facts correct. These are victims we are talking about, whether it's of their own demise or at somebody else doing it. You need to get the facts straight. 3. Being unable to reach anybody at the apartment, officers on scene were able to make contact with the property manager, Aaron Porter, who provided them with a key to access the apartment for a well-being check. Upon entering the apartment, Officer Cotard located Birchmore in the bedroom, deceased with a black strap around her neck, which was tied to the bedroom closet door. So he says it's a black strap. At this point, the scene was secured by Officer Yeaton, requested my response to the scene along with Detective McCourt. Once on scene, access to the apartment was limited to Detective McCourt and I. Firefighter Whitley was allowed into the apartment with Tyvek boots in order to pronounce the party deceased. Once the scene was secured, State Police CPAC unit was notified and responded to the scene. While waiting for CPAC unit to arrive, I went to the rental office and met with the property manager, Aaron Porter, and the maintenance supervisor, Carlos. Carlos was able to access the video camera system, which only captured the interior entrance to Building 3, which was the residence of the deceased. The video is motion activated and captures people entering and exiting or any other motion in the front lobby. Once again, it's better than your department's cameras. While observing this footage, I observed Birchmore's activity in the following order. On February 2nd. Sir? I'm glad you didn't put a day of the week on that, because that would have been really great. And the tape says February 1st. So you don't have that right either. So, yeah. And then he goes, well, he does put a day of the week on that. He puts it as a Sunday. So it's Sunday, Monday, Thursday. He doesn't say that the 4th is Thursday, but it was a Thursday. So none of that is correct. It is actually February 1st, 2021, and it is a Monday. But let's disregard that, because we don't have to, we just write things. You don't have to make sure, they don't have to actually be factual in our police reports. We just write stuff down. It's approximations and estimates. It says leaves the building at 9:51 on the telephone, returns to the building at 10:08 a.m. carrying a large box containing a baby car seat, which we talked about that they found in the previous police report in this video. Leaves at 10:11 a.m., returns to the building at 1:15 with 2 pizza boxes and talking on the phone. Leaves at 4:39, returns to the building at 4:41, texting on telephone. I was later informed by Carlos that Birchmore is captured again on camera leaving the building on Monday, and she returns at 5:46 p.m. holding a snow brush. This was the last time, and that is the end of the first page. Let's move on to the second page. So either Carlos reported that she left again on Monday after it being a Sunday of the snow brush thing, or he misremembers. But I thought he says he reviewed the video. And if he would have viewed the video, he would notice that all those things and the snow brush incident all happened February 1st on a Monday, all the same day. It wasn't part on Sunday and then again on Monday. So, yeah. But he goes on to continue to say that Birchmore was seen on video. While reviewing the video, Porter was able to obtain Birchmore's file and locate her emergency contact, Darlene Smith, who is the aunt of the deceased. Upon returning to the apartment, I met Trooper Dunn and Tufts from the State Police CPAC unit. I advised them of all the information that we had obtained thus far. The scene was processed and photographed by the CPAC unit. The medical examiner's office was contacted and responded to the scene to take custody of the body. It was at this time that Officer Nix was able to get in contact with Darlene Smith, who was currently in New Hampshire. Officer Nix advised her that Birchmore was found deceased. Smith told Nix that this did not make any sense to her and went on to tell him that blank and very happy about it. So I'm guessing that she was pregnant and she was very happy about it. She was unable to respond to the scene because she was out of state. Thursday evening, I was contacted by email by Erin Porter, who is the property manager of Windsor Woods. She stated that she had seen somebody entering the building on the video footage that she believed was Alexander Stenstrom, who is a friend of Birchmore's. Stenstrom had applied for housing a few weeks back with the recommendation of Birchmore. She said she was not positive due to the face covering, but she wanted to bring it to our attention. I advised her that we would look into the matter when we were able to access the video footage again. So it'd be interesting to see who that fella is. On Saturday, February 6th, so Thursday. Okay, so here we are. Saturday is the 6th. And the 3rd was Monday. And Sunday was the 2nd, according to Officer Lank. Sir, you cannot. Saturday was the 6th because the 4th was a Thursday. So Friday would be the 5th and Saturday is the 6th. So just off of this statement here, writing this, Your other dates don't make any sense, sir. Fix it. I returned to work as a patrol sergeant on the 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift. Once at work, I noticed another email I had received from Porter stating that she had concerning phone call on Friday night around 9 p.m. and would like to speak to me about it. Emergency line from party named Tina Thompson blanks. She said that Thompson was very upset and was making statements about Birchmore. She stated that Birchmore had been dating a police officer and that blank. She told Porter that the police officer blank told Birchmore he would take care of the problem himself. Porter advised her that she would be speaking with the police and not her. Detective McCourt provided Trooper Tufts with all of this information as well as the contact information for Porter and Thompson. So apparently Tina Thompson might have been a friend of Sandra Birchmore, because Sandra, she would tell anybody that she was pregnant, that would listen to her. She was very happy and excited about it, and people knew who Birchmore's boyfriend was. I mean, even the officers in the police department at Stoughton knew who her boyfriend was. They didn't say anything, because, if the other ones are having affairs on their wives, they don't want their affairs getting out, so what? They're not going to out somebody else's affair. But she was saying that, hey, Sandra was dating a police officer, and the police officer, his name, told Birchmore something, and he would take care of the problem himself. So is taking care of the problem himself killing Sandra with the unborn baby so that his wife wouldn't find out? Motive, can we say? But let's see what they do with this information. So at approximately 1 p.m., I returned to Windsor Woods with Detectives Albert and McCourt. The lovely Albert. Carlos had agreed to meet us there and review more video from Building 3. We were met at the leasing office by Trooper Dunn and Tufts. While video footage was being reviewed, I spoke with the officer leasing manager, Kathleen Faherty. I told Faherty that it had been brought to my attention that she had spoken to Birchmore in recent weeks before her death. She acknowledged that she had spoken to her a couple of different occasions and agreed to speak with me about it. She said that she spoke with Birchmore about 4 weeks ago, and this was when she first learned that Birchmore, I'm guessing, is pregnant. Birchmore told her that the blank, and she seemed nervous about it. She told Faherty that the blank was a police officer. So she told her that the police officer was the father of the baby, and that the police officer was not happy about this baby and did not want Birchmore to have the baby. Birchmore never told her where or in what capacity the blank worked as a police officer. So she didn't know any like specific details, just that her boyfriend and the baby's father were a police officer. That's like the minimum. She didn't know where he worked or what rank he had or anything like that. And she said Birchmore went on to say that the two had broken up and were no longer together. So 4 weeks ago, according to Kathleen Faherty, Sandra Birchmore and Matthew Farwell were not together anymore. Now, did they get back together? And then he was going to, as he said, go break up with Sandra the night of this alleged incident? Or were they still not together? And Birchmore was like, oh, he wants to come see me and talk to me. Like, maybe we can get back together. Because were they still broken up at this time? Or had they gotten back together? That would be interesting. The text messages would probably reveal a lot. Even though Matthew Farwell deleted his communications off of his phone, but we know that just because you delete something off your phone does not mean that it is gone forever. So then Faraday, she believes that Birchmore was approximately blank, so I'm guessing that's how far along she was. The next time Faraday recalls talking with Birchmore was approximately 3 weeks ago. During this conversation, Faraday states that Birchmore seemed to be happier and joked with Faraday about anticipating multiple packages to be delivered in the coming weeks, as she has blank. She also stated that once the blank, she was hoping to move into a bigger, so probably the baby, once the baby maybe was born, she was hoping to move into a bigger unit within the Windsor Woods. So she still wanted to stay at Windsor Woods, but maybe instead of like a 1-bedroom, maybe she wanted a 2-bedroom for her and the baby. Faraday told me that all the packages are delivered by a courier, come to the leasing office, and then they send a message to the tenant. She told me that she had a record of packages from Kohl's that were delivered last week and had not been picked up. There was one more package that just arrived on the day, February 6, 2021, from Kohl's. The packages were small, and based on what Faraday told me, blank. I did not open the package, but brought it to the attention of Troopers Dunn and Tuft. So were they baby things? Which gives credibility to Kathleen Faraday. After speaking with Faraday, I returned to apartment 3307 with Canton detectives Alberts and McCourt. We were accompanied by Trooper Dunn, Tufts, and Sergeant Fanning from Massachusetts State Police. Once inside the apartment, my attention was brought to the larger box containing the baby car seat. This was the same box that they had observed Birchmore carrying into the building on Saturday. What? Now you're saying the video of her carrying in the car seat is on Saturday, not Sunday? When it actually was Monday on the video? How is anybody supposed to get a timeline from you, Lank? Your timelines don't make sense. Thank God there's other reports and actual video footage that people can actually look at and go by and not have to rely on your reports for an accurate timeline. I observed the shipping label on the box and noticed that the package had been delivered to New Hampshire, which was the current address for Birchmore aunt, Darlene Smith. The apartment was further processed by the officers on scene. So it had been delivered to New Hampshire, and then I'm guessing maybe Darlene Smith shipped it to Birchmore in Canton, Massachusetts, unless she was, because we never see her aunt on camera, so I don't know that she would, her aunt would just drop her off the car seat and maybe not go up and spend time with her. I mean, she could have before she left for New Hampshire. Maybe they went out shopping and she got dropped back off or something from her aunt. I don't know. Or the package was sent from New Hampshire and then she sent it out. So don't know how, but that baby car seat seems to have come from Darlene Smith. And then we just don't know how it got to Sandra, but it did, and it was a car seat for her 3-month pregnant. The pregnancy was 3 months along. So somebody who's getting all these packages, whether they've been ordered or friends are buying her this stuff and it's being shipped to her, she is preparing to have this baby. She is in the shopping mommy mode. And she probably doesn't even know the sex of the baby yet, because I don't think that's ever been mentioned. Or it might have been I don't know if it's been mentioned. I'll find that out and let y'all know. But she was getting all this stuff ready. It just doesn't sound like somebody who was preparing to end their life or the baby's life, because if you're planning on ending your life, which is going to end the baby's life, why are you buying things for the baby? It just doesn't make sense. It's suspicious, and it raises a lot of questions. So that is the police reports that we have. And here on the Loud Little Ducky, a lot of the times we like to end with the quote of the day. And our quote of the day that I found fitting was, "Blind belief in authority is the greatest enemy of truth," by Albert Einstein. And this is a powerful message because it tells us that if we just, everybody that's an authority, police officers, the presidents, the mayors, the governors, your boss, anybody that has authority over somebody else, if we just, doctors, sometimes, if we just take them always at their word and we don't question them or maybe get a second opinion or have our own thoughts, that can hinder the truth. If we just go and believe blindly, like that all cops are good, none of them are bad, or believe all women. No, you cannot blindly believe anything. If something doesn't sit right, look into it, ask questions. But the reason this is a powerful message is it shows the potential dangers of unquestioning faith or belief in authority figures. It suggests that blindly accepting or following authority without critical thinking can hinder the pursuit of truth and knowledge. And if you don't ask questions, like if people didn't raise questions and just blindly believed, we would have all thought that Sandra had unalived herself. But because people did not blindly accept that, they didn't blindly just go with what the authorities said, we get to the truth. So please do not turn a blind eye. Question things. Put your critical thinking hat on. If it turns out to be the truth, great. But at least you looked into it until you knew inside that it was true. But sometimes, once we question the authority, we find out that the authority wasn't telling the truth. And we have to now expose the truth. And that's what the Justice for Sandra Birchmore is about, is exposing the truth, exposing enemies and people doing wrong and criminal acts, disgusting acts, and fighting for truth and justice. So if you have Facebook or Twitter, you can go follow Justice for Sandra Birchmore on either one of those. You will find a lot of information. You can like and subscribe to this channel as we continue to go through this case and uncover everything that we can find out to get to the truth of what happened to Sandra Birchmore.